I just finished watching the finale for Arcane, and I wanted to sit down and talk to you about season 2 for Arcane because I did do a overall one-shot video for season 1, and I wanted to do that again for season 2, but there's so much to cover here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break this up into 3 acts and talk about my highlights for each act. I'm going to talk about the standout moments, character, situations that I really, really loved. Then after I get through all 3 acts, talking about the best scenes or the best parts for me, then I'm going to talk about overall my biggest qualms or complaints about all of season 2. But since there's so much that happened in this season and there's so much to go over, there will be a second video podcast form over on Jay's channel. He and I are going to get together and talk about the series far more in depth. So these are my overall thoughts, and then if you want a video digging deeper, Jay and I will be live on his podcast channel tonight at 8:30 Eastern. That'll be linked in the description if you're interested in the deeper dive. But if you just want general thoughts, here we are. There's a lot. Act 1, already the action, the animation, all the different colors and the different art styles that are melded together kick the story off so strong. Season 1, I enjoyed it from the beginning, but it wasn't until the end of episode 3 that I was completely hooked. And then from then on out, season 1 was just, brilliant. And season 2 started off brilliant. Now, naturally, I'm already invested in these characters, but seeing Jinx lead this surprise attack and people die, people are terribly injured. Vander is in, honestly, it's shocking that he survived at all, but then we have this whole mystery about why the hexacore is attaching itself to him, why it seems to be healing him, and Jace is really fixated on this and really troubled over having survived and really barely having a scratch on him while Victor is in this kind of state. But also the general unrest that's happening, the attacks that are happening during the memorial, Caitlyn trying to get Vi to become an enforcer, the strategizing that's happening around the council right from the very first episode. There's so much intrigue going on. It seems to just take off running from the start, and it really doesn't stop running except until we get to episode 7, and then it just starts running again with episodes 8 and 9. Isha's introduction, where Jinx saves her from the people chasing her, and then Isha sort of adopts Jinx, right? Like, she decides, okay, I'm following her, and then she has this found family similar to what Jinx got with Silco, and they develop this bond, and, Jinx dyeing her hair and braiding it into these tiny little pigtails, teaching her some of the inventions and talking with her. Even Jinx learned some of her sign language. Their little bond was so sweet, even though the writing was on the wall and you just knew that it wasn't going to end well for this sweet little girl. Even though we could see where her arc was probably going to lead us, I still just hoped, because I loved their bond, because family and found family and loyalty are all big themes in this story. I just really hoped that she could just become the third sister, but it was never meant to be. But I loved seeing them bond together, seeing Isha defend Jinx or impersonate Jinx, incite riots in her name or chaos in her name. And then another character that really stood out to me here at the very beginning was Svika, which is a character that honestly I slept on in season 1. And again, I'm gonna have this chat with Jay tonight, well, when the video is posted that night, this Monday night, and he loves Svika, so he was definitely vindicated with the role that she played in this in this season, because the bond that she developed with Jinx in Silco's absence and in missing him, and how Jinx made her a new arm that was very Jinx-esque in the way the combat, the fights played out because of it. But also the fight between Jinx and Vi in that old arcade. Just once again, it's not just that the animation is gorgeous, but it's that the choreography is so incredible. Every move is just so intentional, and it's very chaotic, but it's also so visually stunning. And it seems like it's just clear how methodically they planned out every single sequence, especially in the action. And this was a very, very action-heavy section of the story, a very action-heavy season. And every new piece of action that took its time, it took up plenty of screen time, was just such a joy to witness as a piece of art. There were some things in this section, there were the beginnings of things with Mel and the Black Rose, and Mel's mom, what's her name? Ambessa, maybe? As well as Echo and Heimerdinger. There was a lot of setup stuff happening here, but I'm gonna hold my thoughts on that until we get a little bit deeper so I can talk about it more in their perspective arcs. But I will say that Ambessa, oh my goodness, what a character. The fact that she was the one that orchestrated the memorial raid, whatever you want to call it, attack. And just like, she is such a crazy, interesting character to watch in this arc, and I do have more thoughts of her at the end of the arc. But I will say that Vi and Caitlyn's roller coaster, I don't know, relationship was such a roller coaster in this, because okay. Caitlyn, I'm sympathetic of why Caitlyn wants to hunt down Jinx so hard. Obviously, it's Jinx's fault that Caitlyn's mom died. And I appreciate that Vi sees Caitlyn spiraling over the loss of someone that she loves and begs her, please don't change, because obviously the other closest person in her life, Jinx, did have quite, or rather I should say Powder, did have quite the change, and Vi really, really doesn't want to see that happen again to Caitlyn. But, oh my goodness, the roller coaster I went on watching Vi go back and forth between being loyal to her sister and being loyal to Caitlyn. And so then she's like, okay, so Powder's lost. Okay, we'll fight. No, I need to protect my sister. But then also Caitlyn at the end of Act 1 hitting Vi. And then there were times when they were on the same team, but it appeared for a minute that they weren't. And I was very overwhelmed. It was quite a roller coaster to watch these two work out where they stood in the grand scheme of things. And one last thing, I said that I would wait on Echo and Heimerdinger, but I just want to say that I loved watching these two help the refugees when they were under that big tree that they brought the leaf to Jace to inspect when it started having those issues. I loved that scene for them. Oh, I already loved Echo from season 1, and I loved both of these characters so much more in season 2. Act 2, I think my favorite scene in Act 2 was when, I think it was during the prison break scene, when Vector is killing everyone in his wolf form, and then Vi is about to attack or trying to fight back against the wolf, and Jinx sees through it and knows that that's their dad and tells her to just trust her. And I have lots of thoughts about Vi. I have beef with her, which I'm sure we'll go into in the podcast. But for now, I will say I so appreciate that she actually listened to her sister, made a good choice for once, and put her weapons down, or her fists, her arms down, and embraced her father, and that they actually had that moment, and his humanity, his core self was actually, I guess, activated, that it took over, and they were able to have that beautiful family moment again. Now I can talk about Mel a little bit more. I loved her plotline in this season with the Black Rose situation. The fact that her mom had an affair with someone from the Black Rose, and that's how Mel was conceived, and that's why she has these powers. And then she's in this chamber, or this holding area, with her brother, which I totally believed as he's explaining to her how she has these abilities, where this all came from. And then she realizes, she sees through it, and she knows that's not her brother, and she smashes him against the wall, and then he transforms, and then she's caught by the thorns. That whole sequence was unbelievable. But also, having Mel have use of these abilities was such an amazing step up for her character, because it was such a unique, it was more than what, I think every character, their unique abilities, what makes them an excellent fighter and a force to be reckoned with, is all really unique. For Mel, this ability that she carries makes her so fascinating to watch in action, when she's creating a barrier around someone so that they can't get stabbed when otherwise they would have died, or being able to push back someone who is currently attacking, wrap them in the thorns. There's so many cool things that she does that made her such a even better character than she already was. Jace's arc in all of this was a lot more subtle. I feel like he was around a lot, you know, like he kept showing up throughout the series, but he didn't have as much presence, I guess, in each scene. But I think that he was really important as far as pushing the hex tech farther, trying to figure out, you know, is this something that's going to help us, or is this something that's going to destroy us all? And then eventually deciding this is a necessary thing, I just have to push it. And then realizing, no, actually, this is the worst decision this is the worst thing for us to pursue, and then trying to destroy it. And even being the one to kill Salo, that scene was, brutal. Meanwhile, we've had this whole plotline with Victor, first being led by Sky's presence to the alleyway with all the people who are addicted to Shimmer. Sorry, I literally just finished watching the series. And creates this sort of utopia, this place where he can heal people and he can give them this refuge, and is actually able to draw out Victor's humanity over the course of a lot of work, a lot of time invested. But of course, all of that goes up in flames when Singed is trying to manipulate the situation so that Vander isn't actually healed, and Jace comes in and kills Victor, and then there's an uprising for all the people that were healed by him, and the place can't go on without his powers. And the end of Act 2 is when we lose Isha, and again, the writing was on the wall, but it didn't stop me from just hurting. Act 3 started out with one of the best episodes of the season, if not the best, and it was the alternate universe. It was completely removed from the rest of the series. It almost could have been removed, but it shouldn't. It absolutely shouldn't, because seeing this actual utopia, not really utopia, but seeing this better timeline, seeing all these people that have died, and Jinx in a place of peace and happiness, being able to be with Echo in a meaningful way, how different life was in this other realm, in this other universe, in this other timeline. There was something really cathartic of being able to see all these characters in a place of peace, and being able to be satisfied with their lives, even though they still aren't perfect, but being able to enjoy what they have and not have so much conflict. And seeing Echo be able to live out this better life, especially because, you know, the story is not a happy one, and so much loss happens, be it mentally, relationally, or through death. It's just, there's a lot of tragedy in this story. So being able to see these characters take a moment to actually live out a happier time was really beautiful. And the fact that Echo chose to leave, even though he could have stayed, and he could have just had a better life. He chose to leave because he knew that the life that actually was his was living in turmoil, and he had to do everything that he could to be able to help them, which is how we got time travel introduced to the story. I'm calling it time travel. I guess it's time reversal, and only for a very short span of time. But I really haven't talked about Hummerdinger at all in this review, and I just adore him. I think he's so adorable. The way he is trying to be sleuthy or like sneaky in certain scenes, his upbeat attitude, his brilliant mind, his beautiful song. I adore this little character, and I usually don't like characters that are kind of like, you know, cutesy, but he's perfect. It was just so nice to have a breather from everything that was going on and get to see this picture of a better time, and then see Echo choose to go back to the harder time to try to make it better. And while I'm on the topic of Echo, the scene where Jinx is about to end it all, and Echo shows up with his time skipper or time rewinder, time jumper, and continues to just get a little bit closer and keep cutting it back right before she pulls the bomb or falls off the edge, and he just keeps trying and eventually is able to get through to her and connect and get her to live. Man, that scene was so powerful to me. Okay, just a couple more things that I want to cover here because there's just so much happening. First of all, Maddie betrayed us all, and I don't know why I didn't see it coming, but it was such a surprise, and it was just so, I love a good betrayal plot, and it was such a good one to me. I'm not in the complaints department yet, but I'll go ahead and say it because we're not talking general complaints, we're talking about something specific. Ambessa. Is that her name? Mel's mom? I feel like I'm forgetting her name. Again, one of my new favorite characters. One of my favorite characters of the season. I just thought she was so amazing. She was so driven, so unpredictable, so strong, and such a great enemy, such a great antagonist. And I feel like she was very, very smart up until the end. And then I don't understand her motivations anymore. Like, I don't get why she moved the way she did at the end of this season. And while I love Mel and I love to see her in action, and I thought that their scene together could have been extraordinary, it was just so quick, and I was very unsatisfied. For two characters that I loved so much, I think that Ambessa could have had a stronger end than what she had. Jace and Victor's future self, I believe it was, end up destroying the wild rune. Vander has completely lost himself, his core self, and is just the wolf man now and continues to attack. The final scene between Vi and Jinx, I absolutely loved. I really appreciate that after everything that they've been through, every mistake that these two have made, they continue to forgive each other and they continue to be sisters to the end. They continue to love each other to the very end. I loved that they left it, at least at this point in the story, they left Jinx's survival up in the air, because what we do know about her is that she chose her sister above everything else, that she was finally able to let go of her past hatred to break the cycle of violence, that even if she did die, there is an alternate universe, Jinx, that is, or Powder, that is living a better life. And if she did survive, which I think she did, if she did survive, then she can go on having broken the cycle of violence and actually be able to regain being Powder, actually, or something completely new. I doubt she can go back to Powder exactly because she's changed. She's a different person now, but she can find a new life that actually includes peace. But I think there are clues that she did survive. I have seen the screenshots of the little pink line flying out at the last moment. Caitlin, was it Caitlin? Anyway, someone zeroed in on the tunnel system at the very end, and then the end was written in Jinx's handwriting, which could mean that it's the end of Jinx, or it could mean that Jinx wrote it because she's still around. And finally, I cannot end talking about Act 3 without mentioning how incredibly satisfying Singe, the ending for Singe was. What an incredible villain ending that he just got everything he wanted. Not only did he get everything that he wanted, but everyone that knows exactly what he did is dead. Those that are still alive don't know the half of it, and so he'll never stand trial. There will never be justice for his crimes. He just gets everything and gets away with it all. I loved Silco in season 1. He was just a masterful villain, and I was so happy with the writing and the conclusion for Singed in season 2. Okay, let's talk about general overall complaints. I've already talked about all of the positives. I've really honed in on all the things that I enjoyed. I'm not gonna be exhaustive in my list of things that I didn't like. I'll talk more general for this section, which is pacing, which I've already mentioned. I think that the pacing in season 2 was just so rushed at times. There are certain plot lines that I thought were really satisfying in concept, but in delivery just needed more time to either breathe or to really have a chance to play out more than they did. I couldn't always keep up with character motivations. There were times where plot lines moved so quickly that I found it jarring. I think that if in a perfect world, what I would love to see is for every single episode of the 9 episodes to be an hour long instead of around 40 minutes long, and for Act 3 to just be 2 acts and just really elongate that whole ending. I think for the amount that season 2 covered, for the amount that season 2 explored, it didn't work for the 3-act structure, or it didn't work for such short episodes. 40 minutes isn't short, but hopefully you understand what I'm saying. Obviously that's a big ask because this is already a huge project. So to say, oh, just do more, obviously easier said than done. So my second choice would be to trim down the many plot threads that we tried to explore in this story so that we could fully give the time needed for the plot lines that do stay. I really enjoyed so much about this story, and I don't want this criticism to make it seem like, okay, now we hand wave away everything that I love about it. I would love to have seen season 2 get the breathing room that season 1 got. I think that season 2 had high notes that were matching with the high notes of season 1 largely. But because there was so much happening, it didn't feel as tightly paced, or that the details fit together as perfectly as they did in season 1, which overall made season 2 a weaker season for me. Still loved it, but season 1 was just extraordinary and season 2 was great, but weaker to me. That's not an exhaustive list of my complaints. That's like my one big complaint. There were other plot elements that I felt didn't really get as satisfying of a resolution. Other character choices, like Victor, I feel really mixed about the direction that his character went in. I want to think about it more and maybe process it with Jay. But there are a few things that just didn't quite land for me. I'm gonna need some time to really mull over all the many things going on. But overall, I still loved it, but it was a weaker season for me. Even with that being true plot-wise, still the action, the animation, the choreography was unbelievable. There was so much action on the scene, and every single time I was just blown away with what I was witnessing as an art piece. The music accompanying these really big emotional scenes or these high action scenes was stunning. It matched the story so well. And I am sad that this particular story is done, but I'm excited that more is going to be done in this universe, and I expect that I will watch whatever else is put out. Please do let me know your thoughts. I know that there's tons that I didn't even touch on in this review, so I would love to hear what your high points and low points for this season were. Did you like season 2 as much as season 1? Please do chat with me more in the comments. I'll see you again soon. Bye.